Get back! You two, stop that!
Hey guys, welcome back to Spooky Tuesday, a weekly podcast where we're breaking down all of our favorite slashers, thrillers, monster movies, and black comedies on the new scariest day of the week. I'm Sydney Thompson.
I'm Monica Height.
And I'm Chelsea Duff.
And this week we are talking about one of my all-time favorite films, The Witch from 2015. Also known as The Vitch, if you are pronouncing it that way, which is not correct, but that's how I like to say it sometimes.
That's how it feels in my heart, frankly.
Right? Yeah, I was very upset in researching this movie to find out that it's not actually spelled like on all like streaming services with the two V's instead of the W. It's with a W, but it's seen with two V's. When you look at it, it's two V's.
I get that they probably wanted to make it like theoretically accessible to the masses or whatever, because people are going to look for the witch and they're not going to know to look for the beach, but it's the beach.
Yeah, it's the beach for sure. And okay, so I've seen this movie like 3 times before. I know, Chelsea, you've seen it before, but Sydney, this was first watch. So I guess we want to know, how did you feel?
Okay, so I watched it twice yesterday, like spaced out. The first time I watched it, went into this stone cold sober during the day, and I thought it was really boring. I didn't fully understand it. Like, it wasn't scary. It was a very pretty film, but I didn't find anything about it scary.
You didn't find anything about it scary? Because there's a moment that I screamed, and I had seen this movie before.
No, I was like, okay. And then the second time I watched it, it was dark. I had a little bit of the devil's lettuce.
On theme.
And I turned the subtitles on because I couldn't figure out how to do it the first time I watched it.
You could figure it out when you were on the devil's lettuce, but you couldn't figure it out sober.
She figured it out because she'd seen the movie once and she knew if she tried again without subtitles, she would perish. It was much more imperative the second time around.
Yes, I was like, if I'm going to rewatch this, like, I have to watch this. And I still wasn't scared the second time, but it was very suspenseful. And I was like,
okay.
So I enjoyed it a lot more the second time. 1, that I knew what was going on. 2, that I was very high, and then 3, that it was dark. I think you have to watch this movie in the dark.
I think you have to watch this movie in the dark. I totally agree. And also, let me just say, yesterday Sydney sent us a text that was like, so I'm an hour into this movie and I'm just wondering, is it gonna get good? It's so boring right now. And let me let you know that, like, I took that so personally and I was so mad all day. I was so mad. I was like talking to James, my roommate, and I was like, I just don't get why she doesn't like it. It's so good. Why wouldn't you like it? And why wouldn't you watch it during the day? I don't understand this. She knows that I love this movie. She's hurt my feelings. So I'm really glad to know that you like it a little bit better, because I was so upset.
I dropped off something at Monica's house last night, and she was very sensitive and was like, you liked it, right? And she had to like check with me to make sure that I liked it, even though last time we talked about it, I was like, I saw this in theaters, I loved it. Like, I had to reassure her. She was feeling hurt.
I was feeling very hurt, and then also I had no one to talk to who had seen it in the house with me, so I was like, Adam, it's good, right? He's like, Monica, I haven't seen it. And I'm like, but it's good, right?
It doesn't matter if it's good. He needs to just give you the reassurance you're asking for.
Well, we did watch it together last night, and James watched it too, and they all liked it, so that's good. And I'm really, so that did happen, but I'm really glad that the devil's lettuce brought you to a place where you could be one with this film.
Yeah, the masses have spoken. Thankfully, Sydney got on board at least a little bit. like I mentioned, the first time I saw this was when it came out in theaters, and I do think that is maybe like a very special experience because it is so immersive a film when you're like sitting in a dark room and it's on an enormous screen and there's no subtitles because you're in the theater, and so you don't necessarily know what's being said, but you're just like thrust into this world. And I think that a little bit when you're like surrounded by it in that sense, it adds to the experience. I think if you're at home and you can't tell what they're saying, you're just frustrated. Whereas in the theater, I was like, I don't know what's happening, but I'm like on the edge of my seat holding my friend's hand. I
I'm
rewatched it this
so jealous
morning.
you got to see it in theaters. I'm
No,
so
I
jealous. That sounds like a magical
know.
experience. Let's rent out a theater post COVID to watch this.
When we're like huge podcasters, and Steve Martin and Martin Short are helping us host
Yeah.
our screenings, we can do this movie.
Okay, perfect. Thank you. I'm very excited for that. But okay, how did you feel about it on the small screen?
I usually when we watch movies, will if we're watching together, just so the people know, I will have it on my computer so that I am like streaming it with you guys so that we can all sync up, and I'll usually have it open on one half of my computer screen and my notes on the other half of my computer screen. Rarely will I put it on my TV to watch, but I did that today and I turned all the lights off. And it is still like light out, but it did create a certain sense of like gray ambiance like you have at some moments in the film where it's not nighttime but it's kind of gray out, a little overcast, and that lent itself very nicely to the film.
You got to get that atmosphere going.
I did have the subtitles on this time though, which helped with writing down quotes, and also I feel like I got the gist last time, but it definitely went a far way in making sure like, oh, I know what's going on at each moment.
The first time I ever watched this movie was probably like 2 years after it came out, somewhere around there. I'm not sure. And I watched it with my friend and my other friend from England. And so he's from England and he's also a very religious person. So we were
Ooh.
worried this would offend him. But he was down to watch it and he really liked it. And that was like a really interesting perspective, having someone who's religious, because I am not, watch it. Because I think that made it spookier. Because seeing it through his eyes, and also because he was a lovely British man who could give me little British reactions in real time. That was really nice. But yeah, we definitely had the subtitles on about halfway through the movie the first time because I was like, honest to God, no clue what is being said. And so this time we started it and we were like 5 minutes in and I was like, no, okay, we're gonna put on the subtitles. And like there are so many things that's said that like I've kind of figured out, but like they just say it. They straight up just say exactly what I was like, oh, I figured it out. No, Monica. They said exactly what you figured out. You just can't understand Old English, which is okay. It's like a completely different language.
You are valid, Monica.
I was just like high as shit, and I'm just like, wow, language has changed so drastically. And that I had to go back because I missed a whole part because all I could think about was how English has changed.
Dude,
And I was like, wait,
English
now
has
I've
changed.
lost like 30 minutes of this movie. I need to rewind.
It has changed so much that back in the ye old days when this is set, the letter W did not exist yet. That's why there's the two V's. That's what they would do instead of a W, because there wasn't a W yet. So that's why that's like that. That's how much it's changed, which is shocking to me. I mean, I don't know. You're an English person, Chelsea. Do you know more about this? I just learned it from IMDb.
I don't. I only know that IMDb you're very close, but it just says that the letter W was not commonly used yet.
Okay, well, similar, same difference, but yeah. But yeah, like imagine a world like the main character's name is William. What was his name actually? William? Like what?
That's very funny, actually. I didn't think about that.
I just thought of that right now. I never like what? This
Maybe, I mean, Thomason doesn't know how to write her name, so maybe William doesn't know how to write his name either. They've
yeah.
clearly got the W sound, they just don't
Yeah.
have the letter.
Yeah, they have to have the W
Also,
sound so they can say
They're
witch
very
at all.
close. They know to put the two V's next to each other. They're
Yeah.
almost there.
They're like, this is as close as we can get, though. We can't connect those two. That's wrong. God wouldn't want it that way.
one of my revelations through this movie was, oh my god, the mom and dad are named Will and Kate.
Oh my god. Yeah,
A
and they were
royal moment for ya. A little royal throwback for ya.
Exactly.
amazing. Also, oh wait, we didn't do that thing where we're supposed to read the synopsis of this movie. Okay, I'm gonna do it now in case like you're 10 minutes into the pod and you're like, what the fuck? The Witch is a movie about a family in the 1630s New England. Oh, excuse me. I have to read this again. A family in 1630s New England is torn apart by the forces of witchcraft, black magic, and possession. I'm so sorry. That was such a spooky sentence. I too got possessed while reading it.
Maybe the pod doesn't want us to do the synopsis. The pod is fighting back.
The pod is fighting back. Well, you know what? Now we've done it, so it's done.
Black Phillip has possessed this podcast, and it has gained sentience.
If we could be so lucky, oh my goodness. I have a lot to say about Black Phillip when the time comes. Whenever we're ready for that, I'm so ready. But, I mean, just setting the stage, I can't believe that this was Anya Taylor-Joy's, first credited movie debut.
I know she's
this was it.
exploded. She's all over the place.
Seriously.
She's such a little cutie in this movie too.
She's so cute.
She's so cute. Also, I am never gonna get over how crazy her eyes are. They're so huge. They're the hugest eyes I've ever seen. Get lost in those eyes. Damn. Also, when I was trying to write out her name in my notes at one point, I wrote her name and it auto-corrected to Anna Taylor Ho, and I just thought it was funny. I wanted to bring it up. And I was like, that's a good stage name for something else if she changes careers or just wants to do something fun. So that's exciting for her.
Some fun little side projects as Anna Taylor Ho.
Okay, so what do you guys want to talk about first? I realized a lot watching this for now the third time that I never noticed before, particularly what went down in the very, very first scene of this. I did not realize that. I thought they got thrown out of their what do they call it? Plantation? I think they call it a plantation.
Because they violated the laws of the Commonwealth.
Yeah.
Which is the dad doesn't believe in Puritanism, basically. That's the whole thing. I briefly watched some of the director's cut and they were explaining it. And basically there was two separate Puritan things, and one of them was separatists, where they kind of just wanted to do their own thing and just be religious. And then there was the Puritans, which had this very incredibly strict, we're sticking with the church from England, all this stuff. And the dad was a separatist and didn't really want to do what the plantation's religious rules were, and so he left out of pride.
Okay, this is very helpful to me, because they kept talking about Jehovah, and I was like, okay, so they are Jehovah's Witnesses. I don't know religion, but I was just great, straightforward,
Jehovah's Witnesses.
answers. But then later on in the movie, when Caleb gets sick, they're like, we're gonna take Caleb to the doctor, and I was like, okay, so they're not Jehovah's Witnesses, and I got very confused.
Yeah, for me, I thought that when I first watched it, maybe I didn't have the subtitles on in time to truly understand that scene. But I thought that they were too religious and then they were forcibly kicked out. But watching the scene with the subtitles on, they're the court's you need to cut your shit, William. And William's like, hell no. You guys are bad Christians. I'm the number one best God-loving man, and we're doing it right, and you're doing it wrong. And then he's literally we're gonna leave. He's we'll leave, bye. And he could have, if he was smart and didn't care and cared about his family a little bit more, could have like probably gotten them to stay and be like, I'll tone it down, but he chose to go and be the only family in the middle of the nowhere nothingness unclaimed land, and like I don't know, I feel like he condemned his family to death. I'm fucking furious with him. I never was before, but I'm furious with him.
This is
I truly
fascinating though, because I, on my second watch with subtitles, still didn't get that. I still thought like they're being banished, because he's doing his little fuck you back talk, and they're like, you don't get to judge us, we are judging you. And so I was like, okay, so they're standing in judgment, which must mean when they leave, it's because judgment has been handed down and they're banished. And then I was
Well,
like, Anya Taylor-Joy, so cute as that little bumpy wagon bumps along, and I'm in love with her. As
well,
a side note, but it's true.
it must have sucked living in the 1600s in America. Like I would immediately be dead.
Couldn't do it. Couldn't
No.
do it.
100%. Like, you are already probably gonna fucking die because of so many reasons. But then they're like, you know what? I'm just gonna make sure. William's like, I'm gonna make sure we all die by not backing down on my pride and like just going and getting kicked out right now. Because basically what happens is William's like, I can't be judged by false Christians, for I have done nothing save preach Christ's true gospel. And the governor's like, must you continue to dishonor the laws of the Commonwealth and the church with your prideful conceit? And William says, if my conscience sees it fit. He's like,
Ooh.
Sassy.
and
He's so
then the
sassy.
governor's like, then you shall be banished out of this plantation's liberties. And William's like, I would be glad of it. And his family's like, what? And he's like, I would be glad of it. And the governor says, then take your leave and trouble us no further. And then
I
William's
did
like,
write in
how
my notes
sadly
that
hath
that is
the
like,
Lord testified against you. Ooh. Imagine someone saying that to you. How sadly hath the Lord testified against you. Crushing. What a burn, William.
yeah, I wrote in my notes that the dad is like, fuck y'all and fuck all y'all stand for, which I do feel is the ultimate takeaway from that scene.
Yeah, 100%. And like, usually I'd be like, yeah, hun, stick to your guns. You know, we love to believe in something. But not when it's like, tone it down a little bit and stay with a place where there is food and a doctor and all the things that your family and literally freshly born baby child need.
Actually, maybe I need to rewatch the beginning again, because I did not get this the first time, but then when I was watching it this morning the second time, it was like, okay, so they get banished and they go into the woods. And first of all, I was like, Sydney, we know, has her thing, woods are bad. And then I was like, imagine how particularly spooky it would be back in the day. You're in period costume, like the period costume of them camping in the woods, horrifying to me, so scary to me.
Horrifying.
Oh, yeah.
And the idea of like just full sleeping on the ground, no supplies, you build a fire only out of your own ingenuity, no sleeping bags, nothing. I'm terrified. But then obviously they go into the clearing and there's nothing there, and then it like cuts to they've got like their little goat shed and they've built a house and stuff like that, and they have a baby. So I thought it was like a 1 year later kind of thing, and the baby hadn't been born yet when they were banished, and then they had the baby during this time that they've been like growing corn and like building the home, etc.
It's probably that. It's probably that, because I didn't see the baby in the court scene. I mean, I didn't pay attention to the baby because I was too seethingly mad at William. Like, honestly, like seeing red. I was yelling at the screen. Adam told me to shut up.
Now, I don't know how long it takes to build a house in the 1600s, but I would assume if you are one man and perhaps a teenage girl, it would be a while.
Right?
Either
In my
way.
notes, I have how long have they been gone because they built that house real fast.
Yeah, I think it's probably been like a year, because
Yeah.
I think the baby is meant to also kind of show the passing of time, perhaps, but it was not clear to me the first time I saw it, because I am not paying attention enough to note the absence of a baby, and I am. Once more, we are three beautiful idiots. We need that 1 year later time card. You know what I mean?
They had
Right.
little cards too, like not throughout the film, but at the beginning and at the end in that ye old script. So they could have had it in the ye old script. 1 year, I
Later.
don't know.
Feed us this
Goth,
information. We
1
need to
year
get this
later
down.
est. There you go. That's
Make it
putting it in
so
a
clear for us, please.
Okay, well that makes a lot more sense because I remember when I was watching this, I like the first time I just didn't question it. I was like, "Oh, that's nice that they found this nice cabin in the woods that they can go be at."
How convenient.
I literally wrote, "How did they build those houses?" 20 question marks. How did this happen? So, yeah, that makes a lot of sense that they built it from the ground up. Also makes a lot of sense because like a big part of that was lost on me the first time is that their crops are completely like I guess their crops are kind of cursed. They have like this rot on them so they're running out of food to eat and I thought that they like just got there and so they brought a lot of food and they all rotted, but no, they've been like trying to sow the seed on the land and nothing is working. And also I read some IMDb trivia that whatever this rot is actually like a fungus that is a hallucinogen. Did you guys
Corn
see
fungus.
that? Oh
Yes.
god.
I don't. I was gonna say I don't want to skip ahead, but cut that because I'm skipping ahead.
Do it.
Once more, spoiler check, whatever, blah blah blah. But throughout this movie, weird shit is happening. But you see like the old scary naked witch lady, and then you see at one point like a young sexy witch lady, but she's got an old scary witch hand. But for the most part, you still could kind of be like, is this a character imagining things? Perhaps, like to some degree there is a little wiggle room for a while of being like, okay, this could still be Blair Witch style. Maybe nothing actually paranormal is happening, and it's just like you're going crazy in the woods. Especially if you've got hallucinogenic corn nearby.
Mm.
Because there's a moment where the movie could have ended and been a completely different film. After, and again, skipping ahead, so just beware. But shit really goes off the rails as the movie progresses. Lots of people got within this family by all kinds of different means. But there's a moment when Thomasin is alone at the end and she just goes inside and like unlaces her corset and takes it off with the petticoat and sits at the table by herself. And then I was like, the movie could end here and it would leave you to be like, was it paranormal? Was it not paranormal? I don't know what's happening. But the movie continues from there and then it like addresses things head on and you're like, okay, I like this is no game. And
Yeah, we aren't playing.
this is not a joke. Black Phillip will fuck your shit up.
He
And he
will.
did, and he will again to somebody else, probably.
No,
But
yeah.
would he, I mean, let's just get to it. You would let him, wouldn't you?
I mean,
Yeah.
yeah. I'm
He
gonna get
is.
into this more like when we talk about the end, but like, yeah.
Once he
Okay.
is no longer a goat and he is a human man, salivating, dangerously sexy.
Oh my god.
Right?
No.
So, there's two things that I noticed about this movie. So the whole title of the movie is The Witch, a New England folktale.
Mhm.
Like that's the whole title. And at the very, very end of the movie, like right before the credits, it says that this movie is based off of like real folk tales that, were written down and all that kind of stuff. And so I think like this movie is very just like a very straightforward, like there is a witch, there is a thing,
Mhm.
because this is the story basically that they tell all the Puritan people and the children to kind of keep them in line with their faith. Like this is,
Yeah.
if you step away from like God and all this kind of like things, like this is going to happen to you and your family.
Yeah.
So this movie is incredibly just like literal and straightforward to me.
It's also a little propaganda. Like, don't get like you have to be part of not just the faith but our church, because if you are doing your own thing, you got to go out in the woods, that's going to be bad for you. It's going to not go well.
Yeah, I mean, like, as if that's the propaganda's purpose, it worked on me. I'm like, oh, I'm not gonna leave the plantation. I'm gonna probably stay.
I would leave if I were Anna Taylor Ho.
Yeah,
Things kind of work out for her in the end a little bit, you know?
yeah. No, Anna
Yes.
Taylor Ho gets it going, and she does what she needs to do. Also,
She
I just
is Anna Taylor Ho by that end of the movie.
by the end of the movie, she has made her full transition into Anna Taylor Ho. Also, I wish I had written down Anya Taylor Ho because Anya's cool, but we have to stick with the canon. And I just checked, and I did write Anna Taylor Ho, so that's her name.
She's Anya Taylor-Joy in the beginning of the movie, but by the end, that's Anna Taylor Ho. That's all I'm saying.
Wow, yeah, wow. The autocorrect like predicted the future. Crazy.
Well, once more, Black Phillip up in this pod.
Oh my god. But okay, so like I also love about this movie, like it starts out, they're out in the woods, they're all doing their business, but like it goes from like this is fine, they're just having a time in their cute little house that they just made, to like everything is fucked immediately. Like I don't know if you guys ever saw the trailer for this movie, but it was one of my favorite trailers that I've ever seen. I really really like trailers. And it like focuses on the peekaboo scene, and that's what really got me so excited to see this movie. But yeah, that's the scene where you know that things are about to go wrong, and it's probably like 15 minutes into the movie. But let's call her by her name in the film, Thomasin, which like let's discuss that for a second. I had no idea what her name was for like 40 minutes, I think, and then I was like, Thomasin is her name? What?
I love that name. I
It's grown
love that name.
It's grown on me a great deal, but at first I was like, this is rude. This is that was their firstborn, so they obviously wanted to have a son named Thomas, and then they were like, well, we'll try to make it sound a little bit feminine, and went with Thomasin. So cool, I like it. A lot of cute nicknames. Tommy Gal, you could call her that. I'm so sorry. We're gonna move on.
I wouldn't. I guess you could if that's what you
I
want
guess
to do.
I did right then. Anyway, we'll never again. But yeah,
It didn't feel right. It didn't feel right.
it hurt me. I feel embarrassed.
You
But-
missed the whole Tommy Cat. You can call her Tommy Cat.
Oh my god, Tommy Cat's really cute. Thank God you're here to right my wrongs.
I don't know. I still don't love that.
So anyway, Tommy Cat goes out with baby Samuel. And okay, I'll give him this. I'm not a big baby person, but that's a cute baby.
It was a very cute baby.
Very cute baby. Very good at being a cute baby for the about 3 minutes that this baby is in the film. But like, imagine being Thomasin. You're just like out there being adorable with your cute little baby brother, and you're playing peekaboo as one does with a child that does not yet have object permanence. And
Nice.
you're by the woods because the woods are beautiful, and you're far away enough. You're pretty far away. They're like many yards away from the woods.
She's in what you would call a safe space still.
Yes, definitely. She's maybe by the creek. The creek is very safe. And you're just doing peekaboo. You do it 3 times, and the 4th time, the fucking kid's just gone. This is why I don't babysit. Like, can you imagine?
The psychological trauma from that alone is a whole horror movie.
Yeah.
For sure. Especially because like she looks around, she doesn't see anything. Like there's no easy explanation for her. Just literally the baby is gone and there's crackling in the woods.
Yeah.
And like at that point in time, it is obviously a witch. Like they all knew. They all knew because that baby had not.
Wolf. Come on.
Wolves are
Right? 'Cause, like, that tiny little baby had yet to have been baptized. So, witch bait right there.
Yes. And I don't think I realized the first time that I watched this movie, but like Sam gets got immediately after being snatched too. Like I don't know where. Maybe I went and got a snack during the first time I watched this movie during that part. But like it is very clear they just immediately circumcise the baby, which was like, of course, a very important part of the
Did they?
ritual, I guess. Yes.
What?
Yeah, or something with poor little Samuel's little baby bits.
Thing.
There is like
This is what my
that
notes
was
say.
very gracefully done, Monica. I so appreciate what you did there. You really tried to be respectful. And
My notes are not
appropriate when talking about a child.
I
Yeah, there
literally
was
wrote, Sam is gone, Samuel is snatched, LOL. Then next space, baby dick. Oh my god, she's circumcising him. And then I said, oh my god, this witch's ass. And those are my notes in succession, exactly what I wrote.
did you also have that takeaway?
Okay, so my notes just said, why does ground up baby look like baked beans? Very Massachusetts.
Okay, but didn't you think the baby was circumcised?
She skipped right past that part.
I didn't even think of that. I thought maybe that's just where she started cutting him up. So I guess technically, because she chopped up the whole baby, she did circumcise him.
Oh
Okay.
man.
What I wrote in my notes was, in the woods we see a witch or other hooded figure with the baby. Okay, scary hands, get away from the baby, because she's got like her witch old hand is kind of like moving all over the baby. It is coming from like between the baby's legs and kind of uncomfortably lingers near what Monica called the baby's bits. But I didn't like think that was particularly intentional, maybe. And then I wrote, no, knife near the baby. But I thought it was like coming towards the belly.
Adam and I both were like, oh fuck, she's circumcising him. Like, we said that out loud. So I don't know if we just got circumcision on the mind, but that's what my takeaway was. I don't know if that would be part of it.
Have to do some serious Googling after we wrap this up.
It's gonna be a really dark Google search for you. I'm worried for what you find.
I'm worried too. Maybe I won't Google.
Yeah, maybe not.
All I know is historically, Puritans thought that witches would steal unbaptized children to grind them up to make an ointment and lather it all over themselves and on their brooms, their sticks, and that's how they flew.
That I read that on IMDb trivia. I didn't realize the unbaptized part was part of it. I only put the unbaptized part together when the mom said something about it later, maybe. Let me check my notes, but I was just like, they're sad because he's a baby and nobody's guaranteed to go to heaven. But then at one point I was like, oh, okay.
Yeah.
Also, no, what the fuck was I gonna say?
Circumcision.
No.
Baby bit.
No.
Baked beans.
No.
Flying
Just baked
ointment.
beans.
If you rubbed baked beans on your broom, you will fly. Confirmed.
I remember what it is. Parents back in ye old time, never really formed emotional attachments to their children until they were about 4 years old, because babies just died really young back in the day. Like, it took a lot to keep children alive. And so that's why, they don't really go looking for the baby in the woods. Like, they're just like, the baby's dead, we're moving on. Like, it's a sad thing. Like,
is that why William's like, you need to forget about Samuel all the time? I have so many angry notes being like, let her grieve. But that makes no sense, Sid.
They like, as parents, you're not supposed to form relationships with these young children until a certain age because they'll die soon. But then they also say, like, God has blessed us. Like, we haven't lost a child yet at all. Like, they have 5 kids, which is, a lot back in that day. And
twins. I'm sorry.
So I think the mom, who is used to having all of her children does form this emotional attachment to her newborn baby because, she's a woman.
Mhm.
And that's why it's hard for her because she's so used to having all of her kids when most of the time they don't.
I
Yeah,
will
and
say there's like a bajillion Game of Thrones. They're not references, but there's like links in this movie, and there's Harry
yeah.
Potter because anytime you've got English actors in anything, you're gonna get one or the other.
Oh yeah, it seems like every single English actor was in Harry Potter, at least one of the films or the new ones, and so they're all connected back.
Legally speaking, you can't become an actor in the United Kingdom unless you agree to do one of those projects. And now that Harry Potter and Game of Thrones has ended, it's competitive getting in on those like
In.
sequel shows. You know what I mean? Anyway, um, but so the mom is Lissa Tully from Game of Thrones, and by the way, she says something at one part. If you're a book reader like me, she says something at one part about having a heart of stone. If you're not a book reader, I will say no more. The dad was also in Game of Thrones, but a smaller part because I didn't recognize him. I just looked at him and I was like, he's probably in Game of Thrones if he's like of this. He was also in Harry Potter though, so
Yes,
he was a double whammy.
this is the through line from the last movie, from Sleepy Hollow to now.
Amazing.
More Harry Potter.
And
And
also
also Creepy Woods.
Creepy Woods,
Oh,
time passing,
time.
just as a concept. Um, American Revolution, whatever. Anyway, but there's like a whole Game of Thrones thing the wildlings do where they don't even name a baby until it turns 2 because it's just like, times are tough. You're out in the wilderness, babies die even today. But things really were bad back in the day when you couldn't microwave a bottle. I don't know. Having a baby is hard enough when you've got all the resources.
Yeah,
Um,
and all they had was freaking hallucinogenic corn.
which
So,
seems bad for babies, I assume.
yeah.
I'm not a doctor.
I do not know how people just survived like this.
Seems
Like,
so
I know
hard.
they did, obviously, because we're here now in 2021. But
Thank
I'm just like,
them
good
for
for
their
them.
We're
sacrifice.
very grateful. They did it so like we don't have to. You know that meme that's like my hands look like this, so hers can look like that. Like this is they put in the effort for us.
They walked so we could run. Like, thank you. But okay, just back to the baked bean baby scenario really quickly.
Uh-huh,
Um, when I was watching this happen, and we see the witch, and she's like older, and she's like, you see her ass, she's got that ass that is a spooky
She's got
ass.
that ass.
She's got that spooky ass. I thought that she was chopping up the baby and making him into baby stew to rub on her body so she could become young again, because I had seen the movie before and I knew that that hot young witch is in it later on, that Caleb sees. And so I wrote in my notes, this is why we do witchcraft, to stop pancake ass. And so I really thought that she chopped up baby Samuel to like get hot and young again, like Hocus Pocus style, where it's all about retaining that youthful glow. So it's cool to know that it also makes you fly,
I
but makes you
100%
hot
Maybe
believe
too.
that too. Frankly, I
maybe
also
that's
was like
just
baby
like
blood for youth.
Yeah, it's got to be both. Combo pack.
maybe
That's why
that
these babies are
yeah,
hot commodity.
it's just another fun side effect of baby ointment,
Yeah,
Hot
amazing.
Oh,
bod flying.
Like, okay, it might be gross at first to chop up a baby, but then look at yourself. Oh my god. Okay,
is it
worth
not worth it? Can you
it.
argue with the results? She got those titties out too, and she was being the sexy witch. You know what I mean? Like, and that was
Yeah.
okay. Here's the thing: Caleb is like a preteen. He keeps looking at his sister's titties.
Oh, we
I
must
get it.
discuss.
She's the only girl around. It's complicated. And also, no offense to Lissa Tully, but she's got a lot going on. With her boobs, there's a lot of baggage there.
Oh, certainly.
But he goes into the woods. He sees the sexy witch. She's like Ichabod Crane's mom in Sleepy
She's
Hollow. You know what I mean? She's
100%.
totally Ichabod Crane's mom.
They look super alike. And I mean, she was also a witch. So all witches have that sexy low cut dress and fly in the
Confirmed.
sky and are hot because they chop up babies. So there you go.
Can confirm.
Okay, but here's the thing. Before the witch scene, I was fully committed to my theory, and this is where this movie could be gayer, but arguably maybe is already gay. I was like, both Thomason and Caleb gay. And then I was like, he's got a boob obsession, but first of all, whom among us does not? And second of all, I feel like, it's one of those things where it's like, that's something that you're supposed to like, even if you're supposed to resist it. But from the Bible all about like sin and looking lustily on people, and you're not supposed to do that. So I was like, they feel like they're both baby gays, and he is like looking because he knows he's just about that age, and he's supposed to resist looking, but he hasn't been looking, and so he's like curious. I was like fully coming up with excuses for it in my brain because I was like, they're both gay, and then he met the booby witch in the woods, and I was like,
Yeah, I
that
mean,
was my theory.
I like that in theory, but I think he's super straight because he's super horny for his sister. I
But
don't know.
also, he's a
He's not
tiny
super horny
baby,
for
and
his dad. Sorry.
I actually, here's the thing about this movie. It is fully fucked with all parts of the family, but I love the sibling relationships so much. Um and before things go fully off the rails, I also really like the father-daughter relationship that Thomason and William have,
Yeah.
and it's like really sweet. And also that like father-daughter solidarity when you're a teenage girl butting heads with your mom, extremely relatable.
Mhm.
So many of us have been there, but like, even though he's like starting to be like maybe puberty, he's still so little, and she still is like pulling him into her lap to comfort him, and she's like tickling him. Like, it felt like Caleb was very much still baby, and Thomason was like the best big sister.
I totally agree. Okay, that actor who plays Caleb is an absolute cutie patootie. His little freckles. I was like, oh.
Little
But
sweetheart.
that's what makes like the later part of the film with like his whole character, which we'll get into, all the more horrifying because he's got such like a cherubic little baby face. But I just think he's such a little sweetie, even though obviously he's got a little bit of the hots for his sister, But we talked about it. There's no one else around, so we're gonna not get too deep into that. But he does so much to try to help his family. Like, he goes with his dad into the scary, scary wood that is very, very scary, and then he meets a spooky rabbit. Horrible. Very scary rabbit. Very terrifying. And then he gets home and he covers his dad's ass for like lying to the mom, and the
Mm.
mom and then he comes up with the cutest lie in the entire earth where he was like, Mommy, I saw an apple and I wanted you to be happy. And so I went to go find the apple for you. Like, that's so nice.
That is nice, but I was also like, you guys are super religious. Isn't anybody mad about this lying?
Oh, yeah. Yeah. I mean, that was bad.
But like, that's again another thing. Like all these people, they're lying, they're doing all these things, and yet they're supposed to be incredibly religious. Like Thomason calls her dad at the very end a hypocrite for doing all
Mm-hmm.
these things.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I think that's like another, you know, glaring thing that we notice watching this movie.
Mm-hmm.
The
I'm also only
hypocrisy.
putting the pieces together in hindsight, because in my notes I was like, Caleb is lying. Why is hunting bad? Just because they're not allowed in the woods, presumably, which I think is part of it. But also, it's because he wasn't like prepared to tell the mom about the traps at that point, because they only had the traps because he sold the silver cup.
Cup. Yeah.
The
Which
cup,
she
the cup
blamed
runneth
on
over with
Thomason.
drama.
Which she blames Thomason for losing or stealing when it's really the dad.
The dad is out here causing trouble.
Seriously, I was so mad at him during that dinner scene where he wasn't coming to Thomason's defense, and Catherine
Mm-hmm.
is just so obviously blaming Thomason for the death of Samuel, like 1,000%.
Which,
And
like, understandable, and she's grieving, and Thomason was the only one there, and so, like, babies don't just disappear most of the time, so I can imagine why you would be like, there's something that we are not hearing, there's something we don't, she's not telling us.
mhm.
But also hated the dad in that moment. like all he could be like, he wasn't even like Thomason didn't do it. He was just like, Thomason says she didn't do it. And it's just like, sir,
We're gonna need you to stand up and be brave and tell the truth, but no. Oh, God.
Okay, but also in my notes, I'm weirdly attracted to the dad. Question mark, question mark, question mark, question mark.
Yes, there was a scene where he's wearing just a sheet around his waist chopping wood, and I was like, I don't think I'm into the dad because he's very pasty, and I don't think that I like his long hair, but this concept is really speaking to me.
Oh no,
Oh.
he's tall, he's skinny, he's waif
He's
like,
got abs.
he's
He
got
looks
the long
same
hair.
He looks like
Uh,
he's maybe sickly, which is something that I am into, I guess. I don't know, but I am.
he definitely looks like a lot of boys that I would have been very into at bars in Silver Lake.
Yeah,
There's
100%.
another moment later on also where I thought the dad was hot.
You know,
Oh.
for this role, that actor had to lose 30 pounds so he could look like he was a starving farmer in the middle of nowhere in the woods being attacked by a witch. And he did a really good job embodying that.
Yeah, fair enough.
Oh,
Well,
also, you talked about the bunny rabbit earlier,
I
and
know
we
what you're
see the
gonna
bunny
say.
rabbit. We see the bunny rabbit multiple times throughout this movie, and two things. One, the bunny rabbit is named Dizzy.
Oh, I didn't know
And
that.
the bunny rabbit was named Dizzy, and Dizzy had a 16-year-old bunny handler. And apparently, Dizzy was one of the best actors on stage. Like, hit all its shots, did so well. Like, were Black Phillip, the goat. They hated having this
Genuinely
goat. Like,
Oh
possessed
my
by the
God,
devil.
wait. I have prepared for this discussion if we're ready to have it about Black Phillip.
Okay, let me finish with the hair, because there's one thing that's very
Oh, yeah.
important. Is because it's folklore, actual folklore, people saw hares as either familiars to witches or the actual witch itself, and there was all these rumors where men would end up following hares into the woods and would never return.
Ooh.
And so I think whenever we see the hair, it's supposed to represent there's witches in the woods. We see it with Caleb and the dad. When Caleb and Thomason go back into the woods, like that's why the dog and the horse get so freaked out. When they're in the goat pen, she sees the hair like feed, like when she's dealing with goats. So like that's supposed to represent a witch is here.
Yeah, and like, oh, sorry, you go, Chelsea.
I wrote in my notes that I kept being like, the devil bunny, the devil's in this bunny, the devil bunny is back. Like the idea, and I read this on IMDb, but I didn't know the parts about like all the folklore with men disappearing into the woods following bunnies. That's super interesting. Because like I could tell something was not right. I didn't know what it was until I read IMDb. But the idea that there's like this little spy the whole time, because it's one thing if the devil is just like corrupting them throughout. It's another thing entirely if you've also got like the witch's eyes on them the whole time.
Mm-hmm. No, I love that, and you can tell that it's something. It's not just a bunny that's spooky looking, because it
It's
like
got
just
these
stands
little eyes.
there.
Little
Yeah,
eyes.
the little eyes, and it just stares and stares and stares. So it's like it's taking it all in, and it makes me feel bad too, because I feel like the bunny like finds out about Caleb when William and Caleb go into the forest that first time to check the traps. And like then once the bunny gets the eyes on Caleb, it's like, I'm a witch on the inside and I'm gonna get that boy. And then that does occur.
Caleb gets got.
Caleb
Hey,
gets got.
I know you were waiting to loop back to Black Phillip, but can we talk about what happens to Caleb? Because I don't know that I get it.
Yeah, sure. We can talk about that now or whenever you want to. The Caleb part is like the most fucked up part of the movie for me.
Okay, so he goes into the woods and he's following the bunny and he comes upon like the wood witch's hovel, and then sexy lady comes out and she like lures him in and she gives him kiss and has scary hands that reveals like, oh, she's the old witch all along. But then when he turns back up in the freezing rain naked, like, he's in the house, he's sick. There's that one point where his jaw locks up, they pry it open, and out comes like a rotting apple, which terrifying. And then he just like has his extremely dramatic death, which we can talk about. In my notes though, I was trying to keep count of all the deaths, as I often do. And I usually try and write down the manner of death, but for Caleb I just wrote died of witchery, presumably. The baby got squished up for ointment, but like, what was the deal with Caleb?
Well, I think that, I mean, Caleb had been baptized because he was born back on the plantation, so they couldn't use him for ointment. Probably couldn't eat him either because his body been like sanctified or whatever baptism does. I don't know. But I feel like that was part of like just like this ongoing torture of the family, like psychological torture of the family, because I feel like maybe like their presence where they were just on the outside of like the witch's domain was like maybe threatening, and so they're doing like all they could to like rid them from
It's a
that land. Yeah, it's a turf war 100%.
She's like, this
But
is my corner.
yeah, because I think all of that was just like like obviously he gets possessed. So Caleb's possessed either by a witch, the devil, whatever it may be. And also like it's interesting because like earlier in the film he is like a little horny, you know, he's looking at his sister's boobs, and then he gets taken in, and it feels like it's pretty obvious that like something of a sexual nature is occurring with the witch because of all of the kiss stuff that happens. And then when he comes back and when he finally does die, he literally like it's like he's simulating an orgasm as he dies, and it's like super, it is 100%. And it's super super like, one, disturbing, two, the worst thing I've ever seen in my life, and three, just like that's like the worst like possible thing for it to like for a Puritan family to be, for it to his death to be so sexual in nature. I think it's just meant to just absolutely fuck them all up mentally. For me.
Yeah, and when the apple, remember he lied to his
Mm-hmm.
mom saying that, you know, I thought I saw apples, and so for him to have his
Had the
mouth
apple.
shut down and an apple popped out, like it's a represent like a physical manifestation of his sin of lying because
Yeah, and also like he was like, I want to get you an apple, mom, to make you feel better, and then he gives her an apple, but
Doesn't make her
not
feel
in
any
a
better.
way. Yeah.
sinful apple.
This
So I
is
felt like
just
that
more
was
of the
just
townspeople being
torture.
like, don't look at boobs or you'll get got by a witch. Don't
Mhm.
lie about anything, especially apple trees, or you will vomit up a rotting apple.
Mhm. Yeah.
Okay, all right,
Ugh.
all right. I see.
That scene,
That
man.
movie, that scene, Caleb's death is my favorite death
Oh, it's the
because
best.
one, I had truly no idea what was going on, but one, I love little baby Caleb, and two, he was so dramatic in it.
He's
Like
so good.
Oh,
this performance was amazing.
Let me find my notes on this
seriously.
part. I loved it.
I wish that I had like what he said like written down, but I couldn't write it down. Oh, I
It's all
do.
happening so fast. I have some of it. Also, there's a moment before that when they're talking about like taking Caleb to the doctor, where the mom is trying to get the dad to speak, and she says, "Think," and he says, "I have not thoughts," and I was like, relatable. Um, but okay, so when he's like seizing essentially on the ground, one thing he says is, "It's her, a cat, a crow," and I don't remember if a cat comes back around, but there's a scene where I thought it was a crow, but then IMDb makes me think that it was a raven. Um, but
Yeah, I think that's supposed to be that though. I think that reference is supposed to be to that bird that's in it
the
later
raven
on.
was playing a crow in this movie.
Yes,
Um,
they're synonyms in this world.
Yes, but like there's that part where he's saying all kinds of scary witchy things. Like he's also saying something about a broad axe, a narrow axe cut off its head. Um and then after the apple, it seems almost like he is seeing God, and for a second you think like, oh, like prayer has saved him, maybe like he's gonna be okay. And then as it continues on, you're like, uh-oh, this is bad. And I wrote in my, because okay, here's how my notes go. I wrote, Caleb remembers his prayers, at least I guess. OMG, Caleb is back now, maybe? He's okay? Oh no, quote, cast the light of countenance upon me. He's dying. And then I wrote, what an incredible death scene, frankly, because he kills it. He absolutely kills it.
Seriously, like, oh, it's one of the most like disturbing death scenes like I've ever seen in a movie. Because like, yeah, okay, gore is crazy, gore is really scary, gore makes me go eh. But this was much deeper for me. I was just like, oh, this is gonna be in my mind for many, many moons, and I will be sad.
Yeah, the way he like collapses back against the ground and then you see his body like slowly go slack and realize what's happening, insane.
Seriously, like, oh my god, just everything about that part is just so disturbing. I'm trying to find this quote, and it's all I'm getting is like different stuff online, and I don't want to read the wrong one. Oh, is this it? Oh, I found it. I found it. I think this is it. This is on Wikipedia. Okay, I'm gonna read it. Caleb, raving. A toad, a cat, a crow, a raven, a great black dog, a wolf. She desires of my blood, she desires of my blood. She sends them upon me. She desires of my blood. They feed upon her teats. She desires of my blood. She desires of my blood. Her nether parts. She sends them upon me. She desires of my blood. My Lord, my Jesus, save me. She desires of my love. Think on Christ. She sends her devils. I am thine enemy. She desires of my blood, wallowing in the blood.
Lots
Repent
of
of my
blood
sins.
desiring. My
Yeah,
God, calm down, chill out.
I know. Cast the light of thy countenance upon me. Spread over me the lap. Oh, this is when it gets. Okay, so that's all the beginning part that he says. And then I think this is the climax where he's like, literally, sorry. Cast the light upon my. Cast the light of thy countenance upon me. Spread over me the lap of thy love. Wash me in the ever flowing fountains of thy blood. Holy thine I am, my sweet Lord Jesus, my Lord, my love. Kiss me with the kisses of thy mouth. Oh, how lovely thou art! Thy embrace, my Lord, my Lord, my love, my soul's salvation. Take me to thy lap. And then he dies.
So that is a prayer from one of the Puritan founders of New England.
From Winthrop?
And- yeah.
Yeah, okay, I found it somewhere else and it wasn't exactly this, and so I was like, I'm gonna read that and it's gonna be wrong. Yeah, it's like a direct pull from his diary, right?
Yes, and so basically this scene is Caleb like the devil is there, but he is saying this prayer from one of the founding Puritan fathers, and so he gets to go with Jesus. Like he has been saved. Like his soul is saved even though he was tortured by witches.
Oh, that's interesting.
Really?
Because I
Okay.
looked at the script when you were looking for this quote. I found a script and it says Jonas and Mercy silently mouth the words as he says, and they tremor on the floor near him. And
Yeah.
I like knew they were like writhing over in the corner being like, I forgot my prayers. Thomason made me forget because she's a witch. And I knew they were being little bitch babies, little drama kings, little drama queens. And I was so mad at them, but I didn't realize that they're mouthing along. I thought they were just being like shitty toddlers.
No, at that point, they're 100% like they're possessed. Like Jonas and Mercy are 100% like in the control of Black Phillip, I believe. And I feel like they are for a lot of the film because they're so young and they're so impressionable and they spent so much time with him. Because I read somewhere in the Wikipedia trivia that IMDb trivia that when you like forget the Lord's prayer, that's like a sign of possession. Correct me if I'm wrong on that one. And
IMDb
so,
trivia says, I think, like, if you're a witch, you can't say the full prayer. They say that Thomason made them forget it in the movie. I don't know if the witch thing is, like, witches can't remember it all, or if, like, they know it in their head, but they can't make their mouth say it, which is kind
yeah,
of how I interpreted the trivia.
they probably like. I mean, it makes sense that they wouldn't be able to say it because it's like the
Holy.
Lord's Prayer. It's holy. It's like how our dear friend, the headless horseman, couldn't go in the church or he'd blow up.
Nice,
So
nice.
same type of energy. But yeah, I mean, oh God, that quote is so disturbing. Ugh. And just the
Yeah, once
breathiness, the
again,
way that he says the end, like he's so,
mhm.
and he like rises up, and the look in his eyes, and he like touches his little mouth when he's like, "Thy kisses upon thy mouth" or whatever. Oh my God, very upsetting. We'll never
Yeah.
forget.
The whole spread me over the lap of thy love. I was like, no,
Don't do
No.
not. How about we don't
he
do
is
that?
little.
Do less of that.
The one thing too that always blows my mind, like we have to remember that these people like there was no difference between the real world and the supernatural world. Like these people
Mhm.
genuinely believed that the devil and the witches and all these things were like real.
Yeah.
Oh yeah,
There.
because this is the moment where the twins are like, Thomason is a witch, and her parents immediately turn on her, which is fucked. But also, if you think that she's a witch and she's now killed two of your kids, like, of course you're going to. You know what I mean? Because you've got two other little babies right there that you need to protect. But at the same time, the dad is still being like, just tell me what's going on. Even when he like chases her outside, basically, he like goes to comfort her outside after
Mhm.
she runs away in the wake of Caleb's dramatic death. And he's like holding her in his arms, and he's still being like, just tell me what's going on. Like, okay, you will have to do a witch trial tomorrow. That's not going to be fun. But you're my daughter and I love you. Just tell me what the deal is here.
Right? Like he wants to know, like, are you doing this? Are you a witch? Like I've seen it with my eyes. Like I
Yeah.
know like there is a witch among us. Like
He feels like he's got irrefutable proof at this point.
exactly.
It's nice that
I
he's
think
still trying
he
to
a little
talk to
bit.
her.
Yeah, I think he a little bit thought like, okay, probably there's no hope for her if she's a witch by now, but maybe we can like get the witch out of her somehow if she's being possessed. Like if she hasn't signed the devil's book, but somehow the witches are like using her for their
Yeah,
evil purposes. Um
you
she
do an
will
exorcism.
have to, I don't know. This is before the Salem witch trials. I don't know what they were doing for witches at this time, if they were doing the whole like, do they float? Do they sink? Do they light on fire? Whatever you do for witches, all lots of things that seem bad, seem not good.
Yeah.
Crushing, um, lots going on there.
I just feel bad, for people at this time, especially young Thomason. Like, you can't go through a bad girl phase at all without being deemed a witch, She doesn't even know how to write her name, so she couldn't have written it in the book yet. And, she's just going through a little bit of a time. But I just have to say, we haven't talked about it enough about how much Jonas and Mercy suck. Like, I hate them so much. They suck so bad. They're both really creepy. Also,
I love
great
Oh,
them.
they're
names.
so
Really good
annoying.
names. Really good names.
They're so
I like
cute
them.
and they're like snuggling always, and I love them, and I think they're adorable, and I do think that they're like very bratty toddlers, but also I relate to that. Um but the second that like we meet them, essentially, not the second that we meet them, but very early on, they're singing their song about how Black Phillip is king, and I was just like, I've seen this movie, but even if I hadn't, I could tell you that this was a bad sign.
No, 100%. That the song that they sing is Black Phillip, a crown grows out his head. Black Phillip, to nanny queen is wed. Don't know what that means. Jump to the fence post, running in the stall. Black Phillip, king of all. King of the
I
sky and land as well. And the sea and the sand. Wow, he's got it covered.
First of all, only Jesus is king or whatever. Say
Yeah.
it's probably both the Bible and Kanye. Um, but I don't know. it
And
just feels like blasphemy right out the gate, you know?
100%. And at the end of the song, they said, "We are ye servants, we are ye men. Black Phillip eats
Mm,
the lions from the lion's den." So straight
telling
up,
on
they're
themselves.
like, "Hello, mother. Hello, father. We are cute little twins, and we are possessed by the goat." And they're just spelling it out in sing-song version. That is exactly what they're doing.
Immediately being
Right,
like,
but
we serve the
because they're so
devil. Like,
young, they
should
just
never
think
have
it's
been a
like, oh,
question.
they're just singing fun children's songs. You know how kids are.
And then, okay, they're down by the river when Thomason and Caleb are down there, and Mercy comes sneaking up on them, and she's like, "I'm the witch of the woods." Being just, absolute witch of the woods material, we find out later, telling the truth, essentially.
Yeah.
Um, but being a bratty little baby. And then, okay, the way that Thomason immediately pounced on her and was like, "No,
Ooh,
I'm the witch of the woods, and I will eat you." I was like, this is big sister shit, and I love it.
I love that. Oh my god. She is so great. She runs up to her and she's like, "I am that very witch. When I sleep, my spirit slips away from my body and dances naked with the devil. That's how I signed his book." Like,
That
wow.
was just like such traditional sibling shit to me. Like I get that this is the 1600s, but I felt like this dialogue could easily be in a modern day movie where a tiny little baby is being like, "I'm the witch," and the big sister's like, "You want to talk about witches? Guess what? I'm a witch. I will devour you whole."
And also she like gets real fucked up. She's like, "Yeah, my master wanted a baby, so I took him to Sam and you're next," essentially.
She like helps her. I don't know. I just like love that sibling dynamic there, even though later we find out a little more going on than that. A little more to it.
Just a little bit more. Wow, yeah, I'm an only child, so I missed out on all of these formative I be the witch of the wood moments that I could have had. Too bad. Very disappointing.
Yeah,
I'm a quasi only child, so I feel that as well.
You know what,
none of us
Sydney,
have
we should bully
sisters.
each other. I feel like we already do, so we're there.
Yeah,
True.
that's the thing. I am a little sister. I'm not an older sister. I just have a brother, but I just feel in my heart that that is how it goes.
Yeah. Okay, well, can we talk about Black Phillip for a second
Yes,
now
yes,
that
yes.
we've
We'll come
gotten
back to
into
Black
this
Phillip.
place? So
Because
I've
also
been
with the twins, there was that moment where the mom was like very mad to discover that the twins were alone with Black Phillip, which first of all, foreshadowing, but I was also like, is the goat dangerous? Turns out goats not good.
yeah, I mean, goats in general are like,
Evil.
a little
One ate my
evil.
dress at a state fair back in the day. Never get over it.
Oh my god. I mean, I love goats. I love looking at goats. I like that their eye pupils are like a rectangle or whatever. That's demonic, even in and of itself.
100%.
100%. That just, I will have to read about why that is, but it seems wrong. Like,
Honestly, the
doesn't make
fact that
any
this
sense.
family had a goat at all, I was kind of like, you brought this on yourself. Maybe don't have a goat.
Yeah, and
Male
also,
goats can be aggressive, so I wouldn't want my small children around male goats.
yeah, I
I
would not
guess
want the kids around a goat that big no matter what. That goat, in actuality, is a goat named Charlie, and he's 210 pounds. 210 pounds. That's like
a goat.
14 Jonas and Mercies. That's not math, but we'll pretend.
And he was a dick on set. Everybody hated working with him
Exactly.
because
Oh
he
my god.
was aggressive.
Yeah, so like let's get into Black Phillip. This Black Phillip, I'm obsessed with him. This is a thing about this movie is like Black Phillip kind of like stole the show and it kind of pissed off the director just to start because, everybody was so obsessed with him and how terrifying he is. He has so many iconic moments. And like the director, this is like his debut film. He like researched this movie for fucking 4 years, pulled the dialogue directly from ye old texts. Like the entire movie is filmed using 90% like natural and found light, and they didn't light it. Like it's
Which,
like
beautiful.
beautiful by candlelight, literally incredible, so great. And like there's so much that went into this movie, and everyone's like, "But that go." So I can understand why you'd be frustrated. I also was one of those people who was like, "But that goat." before I had my current car, I had a 2017. Yeah, that checks out. A 2017 Ford Escape that was all black, and even the hubs were black, which sounds fancy, but it was on special. And I thought I thought that it was very beautiful and very spooky, and I named my car Black Phillip because I had just seen The Witch. So like this goat really spoke to me. But
May I say something
yes,
super, super cheesy?
I want to hear it.
Black Phillip is the goat.
Oh! I mean, honestly, it did have to be said. It really did have to be
Someone
said,
had to
but
say
I wish
it.
you didn't have to say it, but you had to say it. And so I still love you, but this will haunt me.
Put it on my tombstone. That's why she got killed.
But okay, so something that I loved about this movie when I was first doing research on it, like just because I liked it so much back in 2017, which is when I saw it first, I found this article, and the title of the article was Black Phillip, the real story behind the breakout goat from The Witch. And I just thought that that was like the best title that I had ever seen in my entire life. And I read the article front to back, and then read it again for today. So I'm just gonna read a couple of little bit of tidbits from this beautiful, beautiful article. The subtitle, what's it called? You know these things. The byline, the tagline of this article. Chelsea writes.
I don't know what you're talking about, so it's hard for me to
It's
know.
like the title of the article and then the little text that's right below it. That's what I'm talking about. The little text.
Not the lead, because that's like the first sentence. Anyway, it doesn't matter.
Doesn't matter. Anyway, it says forget
Tagline is the best
CG.
that I got.
This is what it says. Forget CG. The horn star of the horror release is an extremely real 210-pound Billy named Charlie who put his co-star in the hospital and still gives his director nightmares. So like, wow, we'll never live up to be anywhere near as iconic as Black Phillip or Charlie, excuse me, just from the get-go.
Truly possessed by the devil, truly insane. It's really funny to me that you say the director was mad that Black Phillip stole the show, because Black Phillip was supposed to be in more scenes. Like, they had more planned for Black Phillip that they had to cut because Charlie was such a little monster.
He's a diva on set. He wouldn't fucking do what he was supposed to do. They said that every time he was supposed to be unhinged and crazy in the movie, he just wanted to fucking chill. And whenever he needed to just be chill, he was trying to kill everyone. For example, I'm not sure if this is exactly the scene, but from what I read, it points to this. I think the part when Jonas and Mercy are singing their song for the first time about Black Phillip, and then like everybody's fucking freaking out, and William goes and tries to put Black Phillip back into his cage. When he like runs and tries to attack William, I think that was not scripted, and he actually just tried to attack William, and William just kind of went with it and put him away. So like, I mean, that added to it. He's doing a little bit of, you know, like off the cuff improvisation. He's an incredible actor, young Charlie.
Charlie was fully method for this role.
100%. And they only picked Charlie because one, he was the spookiest one and he had the longest horns. But something that I didn't know is that those horns are like kind of serrated. I don't know if serrated is the word, but like bumpy, scratchy on the outside. So even if you're not like being impaled by the tips, which is what I thought was probably happening in William's death scene, I think also just the outsides can really fuck you up, because at one point during filming, Black Phillip, aka Charlie, like rammed poor actor who plays William, and it dislodged a tendon from his ribs, and he had to go to the hospital and then was on painkillers for the entire rest of the production.
I hate that. I hate that. I hate and love Charlie in equal measures.
Yeah, they were trying to make Black Phillip like they're in the beginning of the movie, he was supposed to be in it like a little bit less than he was, like the middle chill part, and he was supposed to be in it more at the end. But he was so rambunctious that, like, because they wanted to downplay it so you didn't know immediately that Black Phillip was going to be important. And that didn't work at all because he wanted to do it. But In one of the 30-second spots for this movie also, they announced that a new horror icon is born amid shots of Black Phillip rearing up and galloping sideways and breathing heavily in a dark manger. And I just really like that idea, and I really want to find that video because it's true. He is so iconic. Do you know how many people have a tattoo of this goat on their body now? Thousands. Thousands. I looked into this before. But yeah, he just was kind of an absolute douche. But the best part I think about this is that like they wanted him to do some tricks that he could not do because he was too rambunctious. And so, and so they're like, all right, well, we're not going to do CGI because one, we don't have a budget, and two, we want this to be all homegrown. And so they made a puppet of him, just the top half, and they tried to use that, and it looked like shit. So they're like, okay, no. So then they commissioned another puppet that was like full size, and they made it in LA. And then someone had to fly in an airplane, and with them in one seat, and this giant black goat sitting in the seat next to them, and bring it up to Ontario, and that still looked like shit. And so I don't know what they ended up doing, but I think they used that like a puppet or something for the scene where William does die, because like I think it would have been a bit too dangerous to try to trust Charlie to not actually murder William. Because let me find this one quote. Hold on.
Let's hope they also use the puppet in the scene where William locks his toddler children and his teenage daughter in the goat pen with Black Phillip and the nanny goat, which is what you call lady goats, which is the whole wed to the nanny queen thing earlier.
That's why I did not get that.
Nanny goats are just girls. But I mean, Charlie, clearly a menace. Can you imagine being like, we've got these 3-year-olds on set, throw them in an enclosed area with this monster goat? Like, please let it have been the puppet.
I know so. The director talked about how like leads and handlers were CGI'd out. So they had like hands on Phillip. So it might have been like he was kind of like
restrained.
Had a hand, like
okay,
yeah.
Cool. So speaking of restrained, just a quick side note: there's one moment in the film, I think, when they're looking for Caleb, when the two twins are literally tied to a fence post, and it makes me laugh so hard.
I love that part.
I was like, a baby leash, the
original baby leash, 100% same thought.
I'm usually super against baby leashes, but when I saw that, I was like, fucking finally, these twerps are tied up.
The parents were like, we have now lost 3 children. Like, you do have to stay here. Like, you can't go anywhere.
Okay, so I found the quote. So the guy who plays William, his name is Ralph Ineson. Oh, I don't know if that's how you say it. But anyway, like we said earlier, he had dropped 30 pounds for this role. And so he was like kind of like not in his full weakened state. And little Charlie here had 50 pounds on him. So he had to have all these interactions with Charlie, aka Black Phillip. And he was like, he's quoted as saying, as I didn't have a lot of gas in the tank, really. So it was kind of like hard for him to be literally sparing with this goat that then went on to dislodge one of his tendons. That actually did happen. But he said he fucking hated Black Phillip. William hated him. He said he was horrible, really, really horrible. From the moment we set eyes on each other, it was just kind of hate at first sight. He had 2 modes, chilling out and doing nothing, or attacking me.
Damn.
Just
a rivalry for the ages, a true feud. Yeah.
And the last thing I'll say is that everybody hated the goat, except for his handler. And the handler was just like, everybody hated the goat, but like there was this one scene where he had to do this crazy kick on a leash and not hurt the children, and he did it right like 5 or 10 times, and he did a great job. So I don't know what they're talking about.
I'm glad Charlie's got at least one person in his corner. It can be lonely being the villain in a story.
Yeah. And the director said that after the movie was over, at one point he went to this restaurant called like the Smoking Goat or something like that, and he purposely ordered a goat like meal and ate it thinking of Black Phillip because he
Is it
hates him so much.
spiritually, Charlie? I am gonna chew you up and spit you out.
Yep. So that's the story of Black Phillip. I love him. He's a beautiful goat, and I miss my car named Black Phillip, though he served me well at the time. And we will be posting a photo of Black Phillip the car next to Black Phillip the goat on our Instagram
Beautiful.
story. I will provide that for you, Chelsea, and it's gonna be really nice. You'll love it.
Thank you. Okay, yeah, I said earlier there was a moment that I screamed in this movie. There's like a whole sequence here that made me extremely upset.
Oh
Um,
God.
where Catherine gets got by the devil. And she has her whole little fantasy of Caleb with Samuel, and she's losing it.
That's so
But
sad.
then the crow, raven, whatever it is like the second that she's like, I'm gonna breastfeed this baby, I was like, no. And I knew it was gonna be bad. I didn't remember that it was a crow pecking at her nipple, and that she would wake up the next morning with a bloody nipple and the dress, like, just horrifying to me. Absolutely awful. Hated all of it. I thought that was the worst it was gonna be, but then the dad steps outside and immediately gets got by Black Phillip, and that's when I screamed because it
Gourd.
was too much. I was overwhelmed after the crow nipple to have Black Phillip jumping out of nowhere. Like, it was, I couldn't take it.
Absolutely horrifying. Really quick side note about the lady who plays Catherine. Her character in Game of Thrones, Chelsea, you're the expert, correct me if I'm wrong, but doesn't she have her whole thing is that she still breastfeeds her son until he's like 10? So like there's like a lot of like breastfeeding related shit with her, and like I
That's what
don't
I was
like that
saying
it's
earlier.
all over the place.
She's got a lot of baggage with those boobs, and it's not good.
It's very alarming. But another thing I totally missed and only realized when reading the IMDb trivia is that, like, apparently, I guess they don't show it explicitly, but she signs her book in the Book of the Devil before she starts getting teated up by the crow. I'm sorry I said it that way, but it's true. But yeah, apparently she like became a witch in that moment when she sees her children and they like get her to sign it. I didn't realize that. Did you guys realize that?
I did not.
I didn't either time that I watched, and then I read the IMDb trivia, and I was like, oh yeah, as if I had known it all along. So I guess maybe some part of me recognized. Maybe he mentions a book. Caleb, but I didn't write it down.
Yeah, and also there's some other note that I read that like the crow or raven could be like a familiar, and they do like suckle blood from things. So that I think was another like from witches. So I think that that's a sign. Yeah. Oh yeah. The witches like feed their familiars with a blood nipple. That's just a commonplace thing.
Which
There's
also
some
kind of
sacrifices to be made as a witch, I guess.
It does
You gotta
loop
do
around
what
a
you
little
gotta
bit
do.
to when Thomason is milking the nanny goat and it's just blood. And then you find out like the little bunny has been in there, the lady is in there sucking on that nanny goat later on.
Yeah.
Just a lot of really horrible stuff.
So, okay, what happens once Jonas and Mercy and Thomason get like locked into the little cabin with Black Phillip and the nanny goats? Like after William puts them into the manger, that's what it's called. What is going on there in the night? Like did Jonas and Mercy die and we never see it? Like it's
I think
all
that's
chaos.
the implication. I added them to my body count, and in the notes I wrote, presumably torn apart in the goat shed.
Well, so I read something which is dicey. Because I'm assuming they were older, they were all baptized, but at the very, very end, you see a bunch of the witches in the woods float, and they're all just like floating up in the air, and so maybe even though they were baptized, they can still be used as baby ointment. And so that's what happened to the twins.
Oh, that's interesting, because I thought for sure like they're too old to be ointment and too young to be witches, which is why they got.
Yeah. And they're so annoying. So they
Which
got
is why they needed to be murdered, and I
Mhm.
guess they were young enough to be turned into baby ointment.
I mean, that would be helpful for the witches, if they were, because that's a lot of baby right there. Toddler size,
That's what,
great.
2 of them too.
I
Like that
know.
clearly could lift up 8 witches.
Yeah, for sure. If you're sparing with it, 100%. Oh my god. But yeah, I mean, just because I hated them so much, I know you love them, Chelsea. I really would have liked to have a little more clarity there with what happened to them. But mystery is important, I guess, and so fine. But that moment when oh yeah, I mean the moment that made you scream that you were just talking about, Chelsea, like I William gets out of bed with his bloody nippled wife. He walks outside. The first thing he sees is all the nanny goats massacred. And he sees his daughter just start to lift up her head and then immediately gored. Like, oh, God. And then the fact that it's not even him being gored that really gets him got. It's that Charlie, aka the Black Phillip, comes back with a vengeance and just rams him into that big thing of wood, and he is just like smooshed to death by all of the big pieces of wood that he chopped. It's just, he doesn't get any better for William. He's just getting it from all sides here. It's not good.
If Caleb had to learn don't look at titties and don't lie about apples, I guess William's lesson was like stop chopping wood all the fucking time. Which
But
Thomasin
he
does
looks
call him out on.
so
When she's doing her whole
and
like you're a hypocrite thing, she's like, you just chop wood. And I was like, he is chopping wood an awful lot.
but he looks so sexy chopping that wood.
But like if my clothes needed to be washed in a stream, I once more, none of us could survive at this time. We just are not built for it. But I certainly would not take the opportunity to be like, sure, I have literally nothing to wear but a sheet, but I'll just get some wood chopping done in the meantime. You know what I mean? Like to me, that's an excuse to hang out inside and just chill a little bit.
Well, I would imagine if I was someone who was like coordinated enough to chop wood without chopping off my foot, my leg, maybe a finger, any sort of thing that is attached to my body, which would probably be maimed in the process, it would be very cathartic to chop wood. Just seems like a great way to get out some anguish. Just,
Mm-hmm.
doesn't that seem nice? So he's got a lot of anguish because he's condemned his family to death due to his pride. So maybe he's getting out the guilt that way.
Oh, fair enough. Fair enough.
That's how I feel about it. But okay, is it time to talk about like the beautiful, beautiful ending of this film? Because like it's the best.
I would like to say just really quickly before we do that, there's one more death before we get to
Oh,
that point, and that's
yeah,
the
yeah.
mom.
Oh my god, I totally forgot.
Yeah, and like that part is so heartbreaking to me. I mean, you can understand why this woman like fully fucking snaps. Don't
Mhm.
like though how she kept calling Thomasin a slut. First of all, leave my baby alone. I love Thomasin. I would die for her. But
She
then
has
she's
not become Anna Taylor-Ho yet, okay?
that's
So,
like once Black Phillip comes fully into the picture for her. She's still Anya Taylor-Joy at this point, and she's
uh-huh.
on the ground. Her mom is on top of her, like throttling her, and she's just like, "I love you, I love you." Like, ugh, my
Oh, that's
heart.
so sad. And then she gets her with the freaking whatever that is, knife thing, maybe the wood chopping implement itself.
It's
Um,
some kind of like butcher knife, yeah.
oh, okay, yeah. And like she's just gushing blood onto her daughter's face. And then you think that maybe like that would be the wake up call. I thought maybe she would be like, "Oh my god, this is my daughter." No, she just goes full in, and then she has to get absolutely chopped in the face by her own daughter. Very sad, very upsetting. All the blood on beautiful Thomasin's face. No, but she does look really good with blood on her.
She does
Yeah, she
look
looks
really good
great.
with blood on her. I don't know how old she was when she filmed this, so I'm hesitant to talk about that too much. But
Yes.
she's a tiny delight. I'll say that. That's age appropriate, regardless.
She was 19.
Yep.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thanks for
Yeah,
coming through
she's
with that one.
24 now,
She,
so we're
the
good.
tiny baby hottie, obsessed with her, love her. The blood, as always, does everything for us. You like how I held that in,
Like,
and then I
is
was like,
this creepy?
and we can
Are we being creepy? Are we being predators?
When she was 17, I didn't want to say anything. That's not okay.
No, it's good to be sure. You need to be. This is the fact checking that has to be done. But okay, yeah. So when I was watching this again last night, and we got to this part where our beautiful girl is being covered in blood, I was still really mad at Sydney because I didn't know she had watched the movie once again, super blasted on the devil's lettuce, and was having an enjoyable experience. So it was like, well, she's even covered in blood, and Sydney didn't even like that. Oh my god, I'm so mad. So I was seething in that moment. But I'm glad to know that you did have an enjoyable experience the second time and have since calmed down. I've since calmed down, so we're good.
It's just like if that moment couldn't do it for Sydney, there was truly no saving this movie for her.
Uh-huh. Yeah, I was like, this at least she should have had one moment of joy.
We've talked about this a little before though, but after this is what comes the real sexy joy of the film though. Because
Oh,
she goes
yeah.
inside. We talked about it in the beginning. This is the moment where the movie could have stopped and become a different movie where it's like, is any of this real? We don't know. But instead, there's a moment where the subtitles say, and once more, the subtitles had some real gifts in terms of describing the spooky sounds we were hearing.
Oh,
But
yes.
this one said, chimes continue ominously, and I loved that. And that's when she goes to investigate these ominous chimes. And she's covered in blood in the candlelight. And I wrote, wow, in my notes. And then she goes to talk to Black Phillip. And what she says is, Black Phillip, I conjure thee to speak to me. Speak as thou dost speak to Jonas and Mercy. Dost thou understand my English tongue? Answer me. And I was like, okay, powerful. But then you see not a goat in the background, but sexy little cowboy throwback revolutionary America boots stepping into frame.
God, I mean, we knew that the handsome devil phrase came from something, but it came from this cowboy demon, cowboy Satan. Like that. That's a big reason why I love Black Phillip so much, that he's hot as a goat and he's hot as the devil.
And he's got that little
Satan is a
whisper.
cowboy.
Oh my god, the whisper. He's got a sexy whisper like Chelsea does that we
He's
used in
got
our
the
opening
whisper where
song.
he's like, wouldst thou like to taste butter? And it's like, yes, I would.
And I was like, yes, you can butter my biscuit.
I always would like to taste butter. But it's got an even deeper meaning here because apparently butter was like very sinful. Don't know why, but IMDb trivia told me that eating butter was worse than lying. For some reason.
Listen, one thing we have learned is the Puritans don't like to have fun. Like
There's
nothing.
no joy
And
allowed.
everybody knows that butter is the funnest thing in existence.
Yeah.
And here's the IMDb trivia entry. It's Black Phillip asks the girl, wouldst thou like the taste of butter? At the time, 15th and 16th century, the Catholic Church declared eating butter was a bigger sin than lying, blasphemy, and impurity. Blasphemy sounds like a really big sin for butter to be bigger than.
You know what this is telling me? This is telling me that food was so fucking shit back then. Like everything was so disgusting that one dude finally tasted, like a religious dude tasted butter for the first time and he almost owed, and he was like, that's sinful. I should never feel this joy. And so we're cutting it off. No, never again.
Do we think that butter being a sin is where I can't believe it's not butter stems from?
This is so good. I cannot believe it's not sending me to hell right now.
Exactly.
I can't believe I can experience this rapturous, illegal, blasphemous joy, but it not be blasphemous, and I won't go to hell for it. I just can't believe it's not butter.
I can
I
have the taste of butter
truly believe.
and go to heaven. Like, we're blessed.
Nirvana.
Canon now.
They didn't have it's not you. I can't believe it's not butter back in the day. Once more, we would not survive.
Mhm.
If I had to choose between eating butter and becoming a witch, 100% Black Phillip signed me up.
Yeah.
Right?
No,
I want to just eat butter.
I'm ready to
sells
sign
it
up
in the-
anyway. Black Phillip is sexy. They all get naked. They all get to fly in the woods. Sounds great to me. I'm on board.
They find she
And
finally
butter?
gets to have fun.
Just like
She
giving
sells
me everything
it.
I want.
He sells it in the first word. Like he sells it in the first second of his pitch. He's an incredible salesman.
Didn't
You
need to
think-
mention
listen.
the pretty dress. Didn't need the dress at all.
No.
First of all, everybody's naked. Why are we even pretending?
Exactly.
Butter, sign me up, baby. But also the way, again, the best quote from this entire movie is when he, after the butter, after the dress, and he's like, "Would you like to live deliciously?"
Wouldst thou?
Ooh, and here's the thing.
I would.
That was real sexy.
I would like to
Sign me
live
up.
deliciously.
Give
Yes,
me this
sir.
book.
Yes, 210-pound goat. I would like to live deliciously.
Would I murder my whole family to live deliciously? I don't know. But if my whole family was already murdered,
Uh-huh.
yes, I would like to live deliciously.
Yeah.
Yes, it's either that or death, and so give me the butter.
Give me the
All
butter,
day.
baby. And
Seriously.
flying.
Yes.
And then Thomason is like experiencing joy. She's like so thrilled. She looks like she's having a great time. You know, of all the possible outcomes at that moment, if they had ended when it was before the ominous continuing chimes, when she was just sitting at the table inside to leave you to wonder like what's real, what's not real, that would be bleak as hell. But instead they're like, okay, yes, this is a scary movie. Yes, lots of people died, but Thomason is having a great time and you're rooting for her. She's your little queen. And I'm like, hell yeah.
Oh my god, this the whole end scene. So yeah, we get the sexy goat man hybrid devil that we're talking about here. We get a sexy whisper, mentions of butter, also a pretty dress later on. Love a pretty dress. He teaches her how to write her name into the book of witches or whatever the hell it's called. Very nice, teaching her
I
how
will
to write.
guide thy hand. That is hot.
Hot. That's like when I was young and no one had ever kissed me before, and I wish that someone would say, when we were like, "Can I kiss you?" I would say, "I don't know how," and then they'd say, "I'll teach you." That's the same energy. That's the exact same energy. So that really did it for me. Also, immediately afterwards, she goes on a naked stroll in the wood with him in goat form again in the moonlight. Romance,
Mhm.
romance.
Mm-hmm.
And then they
Lots
get to
to
go to
love
a
about the
cool
end here.
bonfire. Amazing. Why don't we have a nudie bonfire sometime?
We
in the
will. We
woods?
will. We'll get there.
I love that. We
I
didn't
did.
do
I wrote
that.
in my notes. Next witch ceremony, nude question mark, bonfire double question mark.
It's got to be a
I'm-
yes for me.
100%. I'm in the market to getting my fireplace that's in this 1,000-year-old apartment I live in fixed so we can have like a bonfire, so we can be inside, so we can be nude and not go to jail. And
Yeah.
it's cold, so we'll be warm. And we can try that very soon. So I'll keep
It
you
sounds
posted.
like a great compromise to me because in the woods and nude in the woods is like, would I do it for the aesthetic? Very possibly yes. But it's a lot to ask.
We just got to work up to that point. I don't think we should start there.
Start small,
We need
start
to
small.
make sure. Yeah.
Y'all
Especially
can come.
if it's in the woods, and Sydney here doesn't go into the woods, so we got to work up to it.
My mom has 13 acres of land, and there's enough space that's adjacent to the woods, but not in the woods, that we could do this.
Sold.
You would
Sold.
just need
Very
to come
exciting.
to Alabama.
Buying
And
my
we
flight
wouldn't
now.
we would not get arrested for trespassing, which is something that would be very embarrassed if arrested nude. So
It's
I
a nude
appreciate that aspect.
Okay. Anyway, we've
Yeah,
got
I'm
our
sure
plan.
my mom won't care.
Before we can do that, we do have to finish this episode. We've done a couple of our regular things right now. I think we all agreed Caleb's death is our favorite death by far.
100%.
Like lots of
Yes.
other good ones. The mom is a good death scene. The dad is a good death scene, but like nothing can compare. I think it could be gay, or I mean, I think Thomason. There's plenty of room for her to be gay, especially now that she's in covenant with the devil and is a witch. You know what I mean? Like that I feel like is inherently gay to some degree. You know,
I feel like the part at the end is
Yeah.
her coming out party.
amazing.
Yeah.
And once again, bisexual queen, because there's a flirtation there with Black Phillip. Like, let's not play.
100%. I love to be represented in film. A
Okay,
witch bi loves goats.
amazing. So, other than that, we've got our Dumb Bitch Award to give out.
Ooh, I have very strong feelings about this.
I also have a very strong feeling about this.
Okay, one of you go first then.
I can go first. I think it is without any argument, unless you argue with me, in which case there is an argument. But I think William is the fucking dumb bitch. William is the dumb bitch. He is the dumb bitch. From the beginning of this movie, I was like, his pride cast them out. His pride cast them out. That is why they're out in the world all by themselves with nothing. And then he's a big liar who lies. He doesn't defend his daughter. He brings Caleb into the cursed woods, and so that's how the witch sees Caleb, and then that's how Caleb gets got. And then he doesn't know how to tame a beautiful goat, and so he gets gored, and his own passion for wood chopping kills him. And I think that he's the dumb bitch, and I hate him, and I'm so mad at him, but he is hot when he chops the wood, and that's what I think.
Yes. That is my thing. I'm just like, even though he's so sexy when he's brooding, and so sexy when he's chopping wood, and so sexy when he's very concerned about his bewitched son, he is the dumbest of them all.
Yes.
He does
so
literally
stupid.
say at that one point, think I have no thoughts. Like, that's dumb. That is dumb bitch material right there.
Big dumb bitch energy, William. Like, please, sir. I know that God is king or whatever, Jesus is king or whatever, but like your family. Gotta think about your family. Hate him.
Yeah, I don't know that I would have come to that conclusion on my own, but now that you both have said it, I'm like, how could I ever have considered anybody else? So I am fully prepared to give William the Dumb Bitch Award.
He deserves it.
He is definitely deserve it, but I also think the twins
Honorary
should
mention.
be up there as well. Honorary mention.
Because I hate
They
them
are
so much.
toddlers. They don't really know what they're doing. Somebody should have a better eye on them. Obviously, there's a lot going on, but
like they should know better than to talk to the goat.
In this household, you're telling me that they're gonna be like, let me talk to Black Phillip and call him the king, and he's gonna whisper to me, and it's fine. They know better.
No, absolutely not. I agree. They get the honorary mention. Okay, so
honorary mention.
Does Matthew Lillard find a place in our beautiful film? I, for one, think it's perfect without him.
Okay, I think he could have been one of the judges that sent the family away. Like a quick, 1-2 line. Like I think I want to see him in period piece. Like I think he would be a sexy Puritan.
I mean, and no offense to any of them, they all did a great job or whatever, but they're not memorable. Matthew Lillard brings a little something special to every role he does. I thought maybe he could be person Black Phillip, but person Black Phillip is already so good as is, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
That like I think I would be distracted if I was like, is that Matthew Lillard? I think you're spot on with one of the townspeople in the beginning. That feels like a good spot for him to have a moment where he's like, are you seriously gonna dip because of your pride instead of just following the rules like everybody else does? And it wouldn't be like terribly distracting. I mean, it would be a little distracting.
But it would be like right at the beginning, so you would forget. You know what I mean? Like,
yeah, that's true.
Like I forgot that scene even happened at all. So
you might have paid even more attention to the opening scene if you're like, oh my god, Matthew Lillard.
Remember that part with
I
Matthew
must
Lillard?
focus on this scene.
Amazing.
That's true. Maybe I would have understood the takeaway there if Matthew Lillard had been there underlining the importance for me.
Totally.
Exactly.
Okay, so now we got to do our knives out of fives. And so who wants to take this one for the first stab at it?
I think Sydney should go first so that we can end on a high note after her.
Okay, but what was the overall rating for this
Yes,
movie?
okay. I realized that we forgot to do that last time, and that's always, I've appointed that to myself as my job because I'm always fascinated about it. And we forgot to say Sleepy Hollow, and doesn't matter now. But this movie on IMDb gets 6.9 out of 10. And on Rotten Tomatoes, this is super interesting actually. It got 90% fresh from critics, but the audience only gave it 59% fresh. Actually, 59% might be rotten. It's like a huge disparity.
I could see that.
It's because they didn't watch it with subtitles.
I think that's honestly a lot of it. Like, I'm sure
That's
critics
probably
had a
a
lot more
part of it.
time to like process and think and rewatch and also appreciate all of the like logistical elements and like filmmaking, blah blah blah. Whereas like the common person in the audience is just gonna be like, what did they say the whole fucking movie? Which was me in the theater when I watched it, but also I was like, yes, I love it and I am here for it. But I did finish the movie being like, don't really know what happened. So I can see why people would not know what happened, and also if they found it slow like you did the first time, Sydney, I can see why people would be like, you know, it's better than nothing. I'll give it 59%, but I don't agree, but I get it, you know.
Yeah. So where are you at, Sid? What do you feel in the end?
I'm going to give this a 3.5 out of 5.
Oh,
That's not that bad.
it's not that bad.
That's what I'm saying. Like, I enjoyed this movie a lot more the second time I watched it.
Mhm.
Again, I was high, I had subtitles on, and it was dark. So it is I had a really I really felt a lot of suspense
Mhm.
watching this movie. So I would say this is not a horror movie, it's a suspense movie more than a horror movie. And so I think I thought it would be more horror when I watched it the first time, and then knowing what I knew, I don't want to say expected less, but I expected a different thing, so I was able
Yeah.
to enjoy it in a different way.
You
Your
set yourself up for
expectations were-
success
yeah.
the second
Yeah,
time through.
totally.
Yes.
Well, that makes me happy. I don't feel so insecure anymore. Chelsea, do you want to go next?
Yeah, I also really liked this movie. Like I said, I loved it in theaters. I really liked rewatching it, but I also, other than when we were talking about what movie to do after Sleepy Hollow, and I was just like Googling around recent movies because Sleepy Hollow is an older horror movie. And I wanted us to jump into the present a little bit. And I was just like, period piece, woods, amazing, let's do it next. But I haven't really thought about it in the meantime since I saw it in 2015. So I don't want to rate it like too high because while I really like it, it's not something I ever thought about rewatching. But I also want to give it a really good score. So I'm going to give it, I think, like a 4.8 knives out of 5s.
That's a really
I guess
good
that's
score.
almost a 5.
That's
But
almost a 5.
to me, that 0.2 deduction feels like I'm very generous with my 5s when I want to give a 5. You know what I mean? So to me, to be ranking it down like that is like, okay, I like you, but I'll see you again in 5 years.
Okay, I respect that, and I appreciate that. So, okay, Chelsea, you're the keeper of the keys. Did I ever give anything a 5 yet? Babadook?
Let's see. I believe that your highest might have been Blair Witch Project. Yeah,
Oh.
your highest was Blair Witch Project, which you gave 4.967.
Okay.
That's pretty
I
high. I
feel
don't know.
that is really high. I mean, I feel like for this one, I'm gonna have to give it a 4.99999 repeating infinitely into time because, like, I haven't met the movie that changes my whole life yet.
Mhm.
But this one got pretty close because it changed a big part of my life, making me name my car a name. So
Oh, yeah.
I feel like that's pretty big. I also just think this movie is just like a freaking work of art, and I didn't know all the hard work that went into it as far as like the research that the director did before for 4 years leading up to it. Also, this was his film debut, which is so freaking impressive. Another thing I didn't know is that this movie created an entire new like genre, or inspired a whole new genre of films that have come in the last 5 years. And it's like called, it's so obnoxious, but it's called elevated horror. So it's like kind of this like highbrow horror that's like kind of more cerebral, more of like a slow burn. And it inspired movies like Hereditary and Midsommar, a few others, but those are the two standouts, which are also two movies that I freaking loved, and I can totally see the connection there. So I feel like this movie, like, was amazing. I loved it, and it kind of left a lasting mark on the genre, which I think gives it as close to a 5 as I'm willing to get at this point in my life. So thank you, The Witch. You're beautiful.
Monica just likes Monica, I think, just really enjoys Witch in the Woods movies.
That might be her through point. That might be her horror thing. Yours is covered in blood. Hers is a witch in the woods.
Yeah. I really like a lot of these fucking disturbing ones though, but like the under your skin disturbing, not like hack you up disturbing. I don't know. I don't know why. We'll talk about it in therapy.
So that brings us to the end of Monica's all-time favorite so far, movie The Witch. And then next week we are watching a very controversial at the time horror movie, House of Wax, the 2005 one starring Paris Hilton, Chad Michael Murray,
Alicia Cuthbert, Jared Padalecki.
yes.
All
I
star
always forget
cast.
he's in
The
it.
guy from My Cousin Skeeter. Don't know his name, but iconic.
My cousin Skeeter.
And I love this movie. It's so good.
It's beautiful. It's an instant classic, I would say.
Hmm. It's not a period piece technically, but it is just about as 2005 a movie as you can get.
Listen, one day it will be considered a period piece, okay?
Yes, give it another 10 years. But yeah, this is going to be a really, really fun one. I know we've all seen this. We've all watched it together before, so I can't wait to watch it again and just catch all those beautiful, like, incredible acting moments from Paris that, like, I didn't fully appreciate the first time.
Yeah, this was one of the first movies we watched with our OG spooky crew, and I'm so glad that we are bringing it back so soon. I thought we would have to wait longer to do it. I feel really, truly blessed that we're gonna get to do it right now. I just think it's so fun, and I think about it literally all of the time. And we're gonna share it with all of you, our new spooky crew. Iconic. Can't wait.
I can't wait. Great way to start out 2021. So if you like what you heard, please follow us on Instagram and Twitter at spooky_Tuesday, or go on Facebook and search Spooky Tuesday Pod and you will find us. Also give us that 5-star review on Apple Podcasts. We love you.
Bye, spookies.
Spooky Tuesday was created by Monica Haidt, Sydney Thompson, and Chelsea Duff, and edited by Sydney Thompson. Our gorgeously spooky tunes are all thanks to Tamara Simons, who you can follow on Instagram at Captain Tamara, and our podcast art is by Mary Murphy, who you can find on Instagram at the_moon_OMG.
What's that like the taste of butter?